guys, my name is Erin.
And I'm Ellen.
And we're from the graduating class of 2011 from UC Berkeley. And though we studied totally different majors, I studied psychology and social welfare, while Ellen here studied biology, the vast majority of our professional careers have been in the HR and recruiting world, primarily as technical recruiters, but we've also had roles such as intern program manager, people ops coordinator, HR project manager, candidate review specialist, and the list goes on.
And we've been fortunate to be both college friends and coworkers for many years, first at Google and now at Amazon. And in fact, we're currently on the same team at our San Francisco Amazon office. So we are very excited to teach this class together. Both of us have been working as recruiters for the past 9 years or so. And between the two of us, we've estimated that we've reviewed about 250,000 resumes and conducted a couple thousand interviews. So, through this workshop, we want to show you how to build a solid resume and interview with confidence. Today's workshop will be split into two main sections, the resume portion and then the interview portion. So, Erin will start us off with the resume section.
Okay, so I'm going to go over what I like to call my $1 million resume checklist. So some of this info might not be new to you, but the vast majority of the 250,000 resumes we've reviewed over the years actually did not meet this checklist I'm about to go over with you. So let's start off with personal info. First off, put your name in large font. I would say at least size 24. Use your university email address, or if not, use a more professional sounding email. Just don't use the email address that you made back in middle school. If you're attending a four-year university, make sure to put your education at the very top of your resume. That will already put you way above the average applicant to a job. It's something many of us might take for granted, but your education and a degree speaks volumes to companies. So put your education loud and proud on the top. Okay, GPA. I know this one's a little sensitive, but just hear me out. My personal recommendation is to only include it in your resume if it's about 3.6 or higher. Now, this isn't a hard or fast rule, and is certainly not to say that you can only get a good job if you have a 3.6 or higher GPA. But keep in mind that what we choose to showcase on our resume is entirely within our control, so we want to showcase the strongest aspects of our profile. Now, as a student or recent grad, you'll likely still get asked for your GPA or even a full copy of your college transcript as you get further into the interview process. But you want to give yourself the highest chance of getting that initial foot in the door, and that starts with presenting as strong of a resume profile as possible. Okay, let's talk about content. This is really important. Bullet point your descriptions. Do not write sentences and paragraphs. That's going to become a really big barrier for your recruiter who reads through hundreds of resumes every week to want to read your resume. So make sure your resume is easy on the eyes. Make sure each job includes at least one bullet point that quantifies your impact. You don't want your resume to simply read off like a job description, but show what your impact was. So for example, rather than saying something like, answered many sales calls, say, increased number of sales calls by 20%. This objectively shows what you did to be a positive impact on your company. Now this next one is also really important. Before diving into filling out your resume, first identify the top 2 or 3 skills and 2 or 3 duties required for each job experiences. I want to clarify that there's a big difference between skills and duties. Duties are the actual literal things you do on a regular basis on the job, while skills have to do with the particular ability or expertise necessary to carry out tasks and duties. So when writing out your job experiences on resume, it's vital that you mention the primary skills as well as duties in your bullet points. And most people will be pretty good about writing about the duties they performed in the role, but a lot of times the actual main skills that are key to the role are not actually mentioned. So let's take the example of a front desk receptionist. Your main duties, the actual things you do on a daily basis, might be answer calls and handle office inquiries, set up client lunch meetings, book employee travel, and perform basic bookkeeping and filing. But what are the top couple of skills involved in carrying out these tasks? If we zoom out a bit, we can see that the first 2 mainly have to do something with communication skills, and the second 2 are mainly pointing to the ability to provide some sort of logistical support. So you want to highlight these skills instead of just a dump of the literal duties you perform. So for the first 2 bullet points, answer calls and handle office inquiries and set up client executive lunch meetings, one way to highlight your communication skills is to say something like primary liaison between external clients and company executives. And for the third and fourth bullet points, schedule, employee travel logistics, and perform basic bookkeeping and filing, we can write something like provide company-wide logistical support and coordination, including travel, paperwork, and clerical duties. So this is what you would want to put on your resume, not just the granular actions and duties that you perform. So in other words, don't have your resume just simply read like a job description. You want to showcase what skills you bring to the table. Next, each bullet point starts with an action verb. For instance, directed, led, coordinated, rather than did, was, or had. And for your current jobs, make sure each bullet point is in the present tense, while for past jobs, each bullet point is in the past tense. Okay, this next section I call the sanity check. Keep your entire resume to one page. Multiple page resumes look very wordy and overdone, and most recruiters don't like it. Make sure your resume has been proofread for typos. What I like to do is print 3 copies of my resume, give it to 3 different friends, and tell them I'll give them $1 for every typo they find. Next, if you have an objective statement, my recommendation is to get rid of it. Every person's objective, if you think about it, in applying to a job, is to get the job. So it only ends up taking up space that you can use otherwise to strengthen your resume. Make sure there's no more than 4 bullet points for each job. And also, make sure that your resume is in black and white and that it does not have any pictures or graphs. So a study done back in 2018 actually showed, this study used eye tracking software, and it found that recruiters can make up their mind about a job candidate in about 6 seconds. So this study also found that the vast majority of those resumes that were rejected within 4 seconds or less had one or more of the following: colors other than black and white, graphs, and pictures. So in other words, keep it simple. Recruiters love a candidate who's creative and stands out, but remember that your resume is not the outlet for that creativity. So the simpler it is to read and comprehend, the better. Some font recommendations: Garamond, Calibri, Arial, Georgia, just no Comic Sans or calligraphy or any other font that looks a little too informal. Now this last section I call tech specific. This is if you're applying for a software engineer role or any kind of tech role. Make sure that your skills section is at the top right after your education section. This is what your tech recruiter wants to know. What are your coding languages? What frameworks have you worked with? Basically, what are your technical skills? And just like your work experiences, make sure that tech projects also include metrics that quantify your impact. Do not include a cover letter unless the application specifically requires it. Most tech companies don't even look at cover letters for new grad roles. So do your research beforehand. Find out if your company is actually explicitly requesting a cover letter. Lastly, get rid of hobbies and interests section if you're tight on space. Most tech resumes will have job experiences as well as relevant projects that the student has taken in classes. So your one-pager will all the more be precious space.
Now that you've gotten to the part of getting your resume in front of the recruiter, and the recruiter has expressed interest in you and wants to talk to you, now comes the next challenge, the interview. So, how can you be successful during the interview portion to land the job? I think for the vast majority of us, including myself, when it comes to interviewing, the biggest emotion we feel is nervousness. And so we end up lacking in confidence, even though we may actually be very qualified for the job. The interviewers know that you guys are undergrads, so I would say 50 to 60% of the things they are listening for in your response are not necessarily just hard technical skills and getting the correct answer, but actually soft skills, which I think all of us possess. The interviewers already know that you don't possess all the qualifications they are looking for in the position, so they will also be looking to see if you can learn and grow into the role. And I think that is a very encouraging and comforting thought. So today, I wanted to share with you guys a tool called the STAR method to boost your confidence during the interview, so that even if you may not feel confident, you can present yourself in a way that conveys it. If you're able to nail down this method, I guarantee you that you will do very well on the behavioral questions. So, what does STAR stand for? S stands for situation, T stands for task, A stands for action, and R stands for result. So, let's jump in and go over exactly what it means. So S, situation. So here you want to describe the situation that you're in or the task that you needed to accomplish. You must describe a specific event or situation, not a generalized description of what you have done in the past. T is task. So what goal or objective were you working toward? You want to describe what your responsibility was in that situation. A is for action. So you want to describe the actions you took to address the situation with an appropriate amount of detail and keep the focus on you. What specific steps did you take and what was your particular contribution? Be careful that you don't describe what the team or group did when talking about a project, but what you actually did. So you want to use the word I, not we, when describing your actions. And then last but not least, R, the result. You want to describe the outcome of your actions. What happened? How did the event end? What did you accomplish? What did you learn? So one quick tip is that you want to do research on the company and look at their values or mission statement. What values does the company uphold? This is important because you can bet that their behavioral questions will revolve around these. All right, so I wanted to go over an example of how a response to a behavior question looks like without the STAR method, so that you can see the difference when the method is applied. All right, so let's go through a sample question you may get asked. Tell me about a time when you dealt with an angry or upset customer. So I have a resume, and it looks like this person worked at a burger shop as a shift leader. His or her answer might look something like this. Well, I used to work at a burger shop, and one time an upset customer came in because of a late order. I heard out his complaints and immediately took actions to address them. We were able to resolve the issue. Now, as an interviewer, what comes to my mind are follow-up questions. How did you address these issues? What steps did you take? This is a behavioral question, so the interviewer is looking for a story about how and what you did. Here, the candidate is just stating what they did, but doesn't provide much data points on his or her skill set. Oftentimes, our response can be very short and general like this, or we can go the other end of the spectrum and drag on for a long time with too many unnecessary details. All right, so as a review, what is the STAR method? S stands for situation, T stands for task, A stands for action, and R stands for result. So let's apply it to the question. As a review, the question above is, tell me about a time when you dealt with an angry or upset customer. Reminder, S is you describing what the situation at hand is. So a response could look something like this. During my time as a shift leader at a burger shop, there was a time when a customer complained about our service. He had called in for a bulk to-go order for a 6 p.m. pickup time. However, it was already 7 p.m. and the order was still not ready. And then T. T is the goal you are working towards. So my goal was to provide the best customer experience possible and complete the order as fast as possible. And then A. Reminder, this is the meat of your response. This is where you are trying to showcase your skills and your competency for the position. I heard out his complaints and apologized for the inconvenience and assigned half our cooks in the kitchen to focus on completing the customer's order. I then told my manager the issue and asked if we could give the customer 50% off his order, given that we were the ones who made the mistake. I learned that we had no bulk ordering process, so I implemented a system where bulk orders could only be made 24 hours ahead of time to ensure orders would be ready on time for future customers. And then last but not least, R for results. The result was that we did not lose our business with the customer, and with our new 24-hour system, our kitchen staff have been able to plan better and provide bulk orders in a timely manner. And that's it. That's the full response. It can look intimidating looking at all this text, but with the STAR Methods framework, what you are doing is just simply answering the questions individually. What results is that you build out a comprehensive, detailed, easy-to-follow response. And it's actually really doable since you are basically answering 4 simple questions. And overall, you will have that much more control and grasp over your answer rather than going off tangents and avoiding rambling. So you can keep it to about 2 minutes long. In this response that we just went over, I've showcased to my interviewer that I am customer focused and I am able to empathize with them. I've also showed my leadership abilities by quickly delegating tasks to solve the issue in the short term. But not only that, I've also showcased my ability to problem solve and provide long-term solutions. And that's the power of the STAR method. Through your examples, you're going to be able to give so much data to your interviewer as to why they should hire you. And that wraps up our workshop. We hope that through this workshop, you can now use these tools and tips to be more confident in your job and internship search.